Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and yep, we've got the diving gear out and the diving flag, as I want to show you a selection of things I've been mucking around with this week for the 20,000 Bricks Under the Sea cabinet. Good. Well, first things first, I thought I'd show you the amendments that I've put through from last time when we took the seabed scavenger from the Atlantis line and turned it into this rather fast-looking submarine. There were loads and loads of name suggestions. I think I might have to do a poll on those. There was far too many. Every fish under the sun and every sort of adjective with the word red in front of it was suggested. Also, loads of different combinations of suggestions for whether I should keep the lights on the top or change them or keep the rockets on the top, or torpedoes, I suppose they really would be. And I decided to go with just the lights because I really like the handles kind of sticking up out of the body like that. It looks really organic. I think that's really good indeed. And it does need some lights for the depths, so that's what I've gone with there. I've changed the antenna to red, which is one of my amendments, and I've added this bar piece coming out the back to make it look even more pointy at the back end. That's another one of mine. But one of your ones was to add a Ferrari emblem on there, trying to link it to the city a little bit, to suggest that maybe Ferrari made high-end submarines as well, and I quite like that idea. And I had this sticker lying around already from when we did our Leaning Tower Ferrari. It's from set 40194, Finish Line and Podium Polybag from 2014. So yeah, I think it looks really good on there, and I moved off the 2x2 black tile using my patented hot tea technique. Yep. Then I've decided to keep the torpedoes actually, but mount them much lower down. So basically I've rejigged this whole section in between these two pieces, which some people didn't like, and I've moved up the sort of modified plate pieces, and that's left enough space for two Technic 1x1 bricks, which can take one of these torpedoes each. And they have to be careful when they fire them so they miss their own nose, because that would be not very clever at all. So I thought I could make this even better then by taking one of them off and using one of these sort of swirly action pieces in the blue to suggest that maybe one of the torpedoes is actually in the process of being fired, maybe at one of those sharks, to help save the diver who's in distress. So that just looks great to me, and that twirling sort of action piece looks so appropriate that when I thought about doing this, well, I just had to go ahead with it. So that does just miss the nose and looks like something is going off. Cool, very good indeed. Another thing I did was actually move the rest of the stickers on here, these ones on the sides and on the one on the front, because from buying this in that bulk buy, I hadn't actually even corrected the stickers when I showed you last time. So I mean, that's just absolutely shameful, isn't it? For me anyway. So yeah, I moved those using the same technique, and now they're much better aligned, looking very good indeed. Cool, so we can put this back in the cabinet now. I've also added a turntable piece on the bottom, which unfortunately just have a little bit of black showing on the cross section, but I think it's better because then when it's on that clear piece, I can tilt it at all sorts of different angles. But I don't really want to tilt it that way because submarines don't tend to do that too much unless they're in a steep turn. So yeah, I think that'll look really good. We'll have to put that back into the cabinet, but first of all, I need to give you a bedoing if any of your suggestions were done. Well done indeed. Cool, so we'll put that back in a minute. But another thing that I need to really give another bedoing for was an idea to add more magnets to the back of the cabinet and actually have something suspended as if in midair on the back glass. As if it's in the, well, near background, I suppose, because we've got all the wreck and all that in the far background. And the idea is basically to get some high-powered magnets like these, where we have a big one, say, mounted behind the cabinet. Oh, you see how hard they are to get off. There we are, behind the cabinet. And then we have one of these small ones mounted on something, say a fish, on the inside of the cabinet, and have the magnetic sort of power going through that back glass. Now, one of the main problems with this is that I can't really get my hand very far behind the cabinet because It's just so close to the wall and also really heavy. I mean, I'm quite a big chap and it took all my strength to manipulate that cabinet into its position. So I can't just casually pull it out and push it back in, but I can get my hand behind. So I think I'll just be able to sort of put something on with the length of my hand on with my fingers, and hopefully it'll work. So that's about my range from the edge of each side of the cabinet, but I'm just going to do one today. It's kind of like a test of concept and see if it works. So the plan is to get 3 little fish, my favourite piece, well, everyone's favourite really, the humble male fish piece. Yes, that name always makes me smile, as I have quite an immature mind, and I guess that's maybe also the reason why I like Lego as well. But anyway, yeah, so these fish are all male fish, and I thought what I could do was get one of the very, very small magnets, the tiny one that's sort of stuck on the end here, and glue it, yes, Craggle, onto the side of the fish like that, and it wouldn't be seen then. It'd just be very small indeed. And if I did that with 3 of them, I could basically have them in a bit of a formation, maybe like, I don't know, like that, or in a sort of diagonal line, or maybe one forward at the bottom and one even more forward at the top, or something like that, and then have the bigger magnets, as I said before, on the back of the glass. But what I don't want to do is just have them loose or blue tacked on, or, well, I can't glue them onto the back of the cabinet. So what I thought I would do is instead create something like this, just using old Technic bricks and other pieces, and essentially use the holes to glue in, because yes, unfortunately we're going to have to use Craggle again, 3 of these magnets in certain places. So I figured I could have one in, say, the right hole there, one in that bottom hole there, and then one in, say, that left hole there, and then that would be equivalent of having one fish there, one fish there, and one fish there, sort of in the formation that I was just describing. I can't really show you any, well, I can show you a bit nearer, but not tipped anymore. So it kind of looked like that on the inside of the glass with this whole setup on the back. And then the reason why I've got this bit in is just so I can add something to stick it to the back of the cabinet with. And I figure I'll use one of these little command strip stickies kind of on there. And then hopefully with the tips of my fingers around the side of the cabinet, just sort of stick it on like that. And then hopefully that'll be close enough, because they're very thin indeed, for it to work. And hopefully it'll be strong enough with the help of the magnetic strength on the fish to hold it all in place. So that is the plan. So this is number 1. Number 2 is this. So I'm going to have to get gluing 3 of the big ones into this and 3 of the small ones onto the fish. And I'm going to have to be very careful with the polarity, of course, because I'll have to have all of the fish glued to that side, not the other side, and then all of the cylinder ones in that way and not in that way. Otherwise they won't stick at all, and that'll be a disaster. Right, so I'm going to pause the video and get gluing, and then hopefully later on in the video that'll all be set and we can see if it'll work. Fingers crossed, because I haven't actually done this yet. So if the end of this video is disappointing, then yeah, I guess it didn't work. All right, I'm back, and I didn't give a bedoying to the person who suggested that. I think a couple of people did, but there is your bedoying, so well done for that. Now, the next thing I've been playing around with is just a very sort of small taster, but I thought I'd show you it, and it's basically this, which is just done in rainbow brick at the moment with all these random things, so don't worry about that. But it's making some caves that are occupied by these very nasty looking fish. Essentially, they're the body part of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle character called Fish Face that came in a set 79102, Stealth Shell in Pursuit from 2013. And he's got a kind of backpack on, which is very hard to incorporate into a undersea cabinet. So I just thought the best part was clearly the head. And if I had them all looking out of caves like they were ready to attack or sort of resting, and obviously I'll have 3D rock pieces sort of either side of this and fill up this better, and it won't be on white and tan here or anything like that, just in the middle of a great big rock face. I thought that'd look really good, and it was quite difficult to get everyone at a sort of complementary angle, so I've just got them sort of mounted with Technic pins and all sorts of odd pieces onto these arm connections, and this one's just wedged in essentially in that smaller arch. So yeah, I think that's a really good scene. Imagine that sticking out of a rock face. So I don't know if this is going to be part of the current layer that we're doing at the moment with all the stations on. The station that's going to go in is so big it might block this wonderful view. So I might have this on the next level with all the coral because we will have rock faces in that as well. And well, the bright colours will definitely fit in there. So yeah, so that's just an ingredient I've got to one side. And I'm going to have to do loads more little setups like this just to experiment with all the different pieces I've collected, making different coral plants and so on. So I've got almost a smorgasbord to choose from when I'm actually populating it, because building it, you know, each one individually when you need it is probably not going to be sufficient. I'm probably going to have to make an absolute menu of them to choose from, so each one's in the most appropriate place. And I may have to do, you have to let me know if you want this, but I may have to do a sort of show and tell of all the pieces that I've collected all together. I know some people have asked for that already. Basically, I've got a huge plastic sort of tote full of all these pieces in bags, sort of sorted by type, which has been quite a thing to sort of get them all sorted, to be honest. And it's huge. It's vast amount of stuff. I've probably bought too much, but then you look at the cabinet and think, oh, maybe I'll need it all. Anyway, who knows? So you have to let me know if you want a video just of me showing off the pieces that I've got together so far. And then maybe that'll provoke some good comments about what coral to build. Anyway, so there is one little ingredient for a future area. And I really like that, with those fish face pieces shown off, but not with those backpack pieces visible. Cool, so that is that. Now, the next thing I played around with in the cabinet this week was adding more to the top level. Now, you probably thought the top section, i.e. the sort of surface of the water, was full already. You might even be right that it is full already, but I'm still adding more because that's how I roll, baby. Yeah, it might be a mistake, but what I wanted to do was add, well, some air scenes. Now, the first bit of that isn't actually technically an air scene. It's this lovely supply sub. It's basically two propellers, and on the back, the Deep Sea Explorer sort of logo, and it's kind of flatbed. So it's kind of like the flatbed truck of the undersea world, where you can load it up with loads of stuff from the ship or something, and then, you know, ferry lighter loads down to the bottom and back up again. So I just really, really like this build and wanted to include it in my setup. So this is E08, and that came in the set 60096 Deep Sea Operations Base from 2015, which is the one with a great big seaplane in, which is E07, and we won't be seeing that. That is far too big for the surface of my cabinet. Don't worry, that's not what I'm adding. If that was on the water, well, it'd be an absolute nightmare, wouldn't it? Have to push out about 2 boats. And the ship, I think, that I've got is E06, so E standing for Explorer, so we're getting some of the numbers populated. Anyway, I just thought I'd have this on the surface waiting for some supplies from either the ship, and that's where I'm going to add the diving flag as well in a minute. So they'll go in pretty much unchanged from the original set, though she is waving. So what is she waving to? Well, she's waving to this guy, who is on a massive Chinook. Yep. A dual rotor helicopter, which is absolutely amazing if you ask me, and that is E03. This came in its own set, really, 60093 Deep Sea Helicopter from 2015, and it is very cool indeed, with this opening door, the winch there for the guy hanging off it with his crowbar, getting dunked into the water, and this lovely colour scheme that we've got on the main ship continued on. So I really like that. There's a very similar Marvel one, wasn't there? What was it? Set 76162, the Black Widow one, which was very cool indeed. But I already had this when that came out, so I didn't get it. Otherwise, I probably would have done. I really like it with the logos on and so on. This dark blue is lovely. So yeah, it's my idea to include this in the cabinet. But where, Robin? It's full already. Well, obviously I'm going to suspend it in midair above all of the busy ships that are jostling for position as it is. So essentially I'm going to have to clamp this to the very top of the cabinet near the lights. So how am I going to do that? Well, essentially I'm going to use fishing line, much like I use above my city, to do a loop that will probably go through, well, either this piece, the sort of three-way one, or maybe even this connector piece here, because there's a nice hole there actually, isn't there? So I can have one in there, and have it suspended from the top. And I don't want to drill into the inside roof of the cabinet because, well, that might look really ugly. So I figured the fishing line that I usually use is not flammable or anything, can't really melt, it's as tough as anything. So that can go through the actual light fittings or the gaps beside the bulb onto the top side of the cabinet where we can't see it, because even me with my height, I can't see it. It's far too tall. And then we can basically hook them onto the top there and it will be supported. So this is going to be quite a complicated and difficult job because we're going to have to measure the two pieces right, because these rotors aren't even the same height. And I don't want it sort of leaning down or leaning back. I need it leaning, well, horizontally, essentially. So this piece of fishing line is going to have to be shorter than this one. Hook around both things, go through the light fittings, hook onto the top of the cabinet, and then suspend this right above the ship and directly above our waving lady diver. So right, let's put this back in the cabinet at its nice new angle because of the turntable piece, which has got a bit of play in it actually, so it does tend to sort of rock a bit. But anyway, put these two on the surface and then, well, let's try and get this mounted. Well, that is a lovely scene, I think you'll agree. I really love that little submersible. It looks very practical and very useful for taking stuff down to our base, and the fact that we can look at it from every angle is an added feature of our 20,000 Bricks Under the Sea cabinet. But I'm not really here to show you that and the flag. I'm standing on an aerobic step. Whoever said that wouldn't be useful? So I can reach to higher heights than usual and show you the very top of the cabinet. A very unfamiliar scene. Where I've managed to add the two connector pieces, as I mentioned, there, with the fishing line threaded through that hole halfway down for the back, which is slightly higher, and forward rotors of our Chinook. And how they're attached at the very top is I've basically put some screws in, just halfway, and then hooked the end around it by tying a knot in it, essentially. So yeah, that has been very fiddly indeed, and has taken quite a while to do. That probably won't surprise you. So yeah, what I need to do now is clearly add the rotors to the top of these loops, and then try and sort of attach the helicopter, and hopefully there's enough clutch power on two of these connector pieces to support the whole thing. And then that will be a very interesting addition to the cabinet. Well, it certainly doesn't look glamorous at this stage, but I'm still hoping it will work. I can't do it one-handed, so I'm going to have to stop the video to actually attach the helicopter. Fingers crossed. Hey! Now tell me that isn't filling an empty space. You can't say that the cabinet's full when it had all that airspace. No, it's not even full yet, I don't think. Anyway, yeah, it seems to be quite firmly supported. Obviously, the lights are shining quite brightly onto the rotor blades and onto those fishing lines, so we can actually see them quite visibly, which isn't ideal, but I mean, there's just no other way to connect this up there. And it does seem quite strongly held, actually. And the fact we've got the door open and this other action scene of this guy coming down the winch to join the lady on here, maybe she came down that way as well, is really good fun. They'll both have to watch out for this whale if it's going to do a massive splash down there. Could be an absolute nightmare. But yeah, I think that's really good actually. It doesn't seem to cast too much of a shadow. Very interesting, and we can probably even see the underside of that from underwater. Yeah, a bit harder. Oh, it just shows how mucky this glass can get. Anyway, yeah, you get the idea. Multi-layered, this whole cabinet. Very good. Yeah, so tell me what you think of that. If it's a bit too ugly for you, or maybe a bit too full. But once I got the idea started, I thought, well, I have to keep going and finish it, show you and see what you think. But I think I like it. Okay, back to the fish scene with the super glue, and I think all of this has had plenty of time to dry. So we've got 3 fish with a small magnet on their left-hand side, so they'll all be swimming towards their right. And then I've got these Technic bricks with the cylinder one, which does stick out the back. That doesn't really matter, I don't think. Flush with that, so I kind of dried it face down, so hopefully they're perfectly flush. So the idea was to do one there and then one there like that, I think, and then I can add the rest of my setup back on. Oh, and that's for the sticky pad, which I've got here, and this bit's just for strength really, to hold this all together, because I didn't want it you know, tilting at some weird angle or having stress on it. So yeah, I think that should work. They all seem flush and dry, and then our fish should just sort of stick to this. Whoa, hey, there's one. Whoa, 2, and 3. Hey. So then on the inside of the glass, hopefully I can just straighten them a bit, and it should look quite natural. There we go. Yes. So if it looks like that on the inside of the cabinet, I'll be very happy indeed. It's just a matter of where I can reach to stick it, of course. And also, I'm going to have to kind of do it a bit blind, because I won't be able to line it up absolutely perfect with where I want these fish on the inside. It's going to be a bit of a guesstimate. I'm just going to be like, oh, roughly about there, dabbing this on the back, and then I'll try and find where the magnets are exactly on the front using the fish, of course. So it'll be a bit of an interesting experiment, but yeah, I think that'll look good. And this could be the first of many. As I say, probably not right in the middle of the cabinet, but towards the sides. But I could have another even bigger shoal of fish with a huge sort of array of Technic bricks on the other side, maybe above the station in due course. This one I'm going to try and do from the left-hand side behind the cabinet, so it's above the lab that we've already done, because, well, we know exactly where that is and what that looks like. So yeah, right, let's go to the cabinet, check out our new Ferrari thing in position, and, well, see if this has worked. So there's the Ferrari submarine in position at a nice angle, firing its torpedo. Very good indeed. Presumably at these massive mechanical sharks, with our play feature, of course. Oh, let me just go 100 to turn that. Remind ourselves. Yep, there we go. Around there. The function that LEGO seem to have copied in their recent range. I should do a video one day on the things they seem to have copied from me. That's probably just coincidence, let's face it. Anyway, these fish magnetized. So I put my hand in as hard as I could, stuck it as further in as I could, and then tried to find it on the other side with the fish. And, well, I just couldn't locate it. I kept looking at the back and saying, well, where is it? Couldn't find it. And then eventually I found it quite a distance from where I'd hoped to put it, but still looks good. So let's go over there and go, whoa, fish stuck to the wall. Now, I suppose a much easier way would have just been to put blue tack on them and actually just affix them to the back of this. But I don't know, I kind of like the magnet look. Maybe we could change the fish or change their positions later. When I was sticking it on the back, I thought I was sticking it about here. But essentially I've managed to reach a bit further and got the height wrong and all the rest of it. So yeah, that's where they are. And there is a bit of a tendency on them to kind of flop vertically because of where the magnet is. I guess it's not on their central point of gravity. So they end up going sort of nose up a little bit. But if you sort of play around with them a little bit, get them so they don't interfere with each other too much, you can get that scene going on. So yeah, I suppose this opens the door to doing much bigger things in the future, or just more of them, I suppose, and make it really interesting. But I think just that little bit of 3D texture on the otherwise really sort of flat backdrop is a really good addition, actually. Yeah, really adds. And it does beg the question how they're attached. I suppose the assumption is it's glue onto the glass, but it isn't. So yeah, looking good. And it does occur to me that I've got the other idea still to do, which is to put some big magnets into the biscuit build, as I'm calling this whole sort of level, so I can hang some things from it, the equivalent of this sort of setup in the floor below. So I think I need to do that pretty soon, actually. Otherwise, I'm going to build so much into this whole section that it becomes absolutely impossible. So I'll probably use some of the really big, strong ones that I've used in the underside of my oil rig stanchions here, because they can hold a really good amount of weight. The most strongest one of all is in the underside of the whale, of course, so I could even try and fit one of those in as well, and then we could have something really quite big, a big beastie, or maybe a big submarine completely suspended from the underside of the glass. But anyway, this is looking pretty good now. We've got our helicopter up here, which I really like. I just love the fact that you can kind of peer around it. It's like those Lego displays that they have in the Lego store, you know, when they're showing off all the new sets. It looks really good. The only thing I don't like is the fishing cable being very visible, but yeah, that's unavoidable, I think. It's usually very invisible in the Lego room. I love our little E8 sort of supply sub. Whoop, get the focus right. There we go. And I love the amendments to our Ferrari submarine. It just looks very dashing indeed. That's at that slight angle and firing the torpedo. And then our magnetized fish have proved the concept that it is possible to stick things to the side of the cabinet via the power of magnetism, even if they are all swimming at a slightly sort of diagonal angle, which is very unfish-like. But anyway, I like it. Do tell me what you think of each of those amendments. You can see that today's been a bit of a week of experimentation rather than building a great big MOC, but you know, I think the results have been well worth it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, it will be a Monday. So we've got the weekend ahead, so hopefully I can get enough time to do something a bit more significant. Not to say that today's developments haven't been significant. I think they're great. That submarine, wow, it's just perfect, isn't it? But I don't know what I'm doing because I'm still disorganized. And then on Wednesday, we'll have a brick call, of course. So yeah, very happy with the experimentation this week, I must say. Anyway, until next time, see you. Yeah, it's still not full at the top.